Welcome everybody back to the DomCast episode 56, where if you are a Brooklyn Nets fan, you are sick. Welcome to the off season. It is spicy. Did a podcast last week with the NBA Storyteller where we were basically doing the preliminary talks about this probably a solid 7 days ago, and it is heated all the way up. So it made no sense but to have, as I said, I was bringing guests on for the podcast over the summer, and given everything that's happened, it made no sense to bring anybody else on than somebody who has kind of followed the Brooklyn Nets and been with them. It's more of a KD fan, and you're familiar with him if you've been in the streams or you've been listening to the podcast, because I referenced the watch parties 100 times, and Kobe was in the watch parties pretty much like damn near through all the playoffs. So welcome, Kobe. Say what's up. Plug your stuff. I know you just started a YouTube channel. I know you just started Twitch. So let people know where they can find you and kind of how you got into following KD and / the Nets at this point. But plug your stuff most importantly.
Yeah, man. Kobe K. I probably know it from the streams. Kobe K on YouTube, Twitch, Kobe_K_. And over there, we just do a multitude of things, whether it's VR, regular games. It's mostly gaming. I'm probably gonna start getting into some NBA stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've been a KD fan my whole life, pretty much. Ever since I got into basketball, I'm like, yo, this dude's 6'11", shouldn't be doing these things. So yeah.
Right. And you also got to let them know that you were basically a lock for D1 basketball, offers flying everywhere, free invites to invitationals. Don't be shy, bro. You know you got it like that.
See, it's on the streams. I know, man. The gas is crazy, bro.
It's not gas. It's not gas. Me, Kobe, and Nikias. Those are like the two. So if you hear always referencing Nikias, Kobe, and two, I'm just lucky to be in their presence. Honestly, I'm just a guy. I just like basketball. Nikias basically owns a whole basketball network, and Kobe actually plays it. So I'm just here, man. I'm just here until I can't reach them anymore.
Nah, you trying to gas it up.
In like another year or two, I ain't gonna be able to reach them no more. But it's cool. We'll have this. I'll get Nikias on the podcast too, so we have evidence that I was once in their stratosphere. Either way, as I always say. Sometimes I forget to. This podcast is on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on YouTube. So rate it if you enjoy it. Let's just go ahead and get into it, because I have a feeling I'm gonna enjoy this off season, which I really wasn't going to. Like 4 months ago, probably 3 months ago is when I staked out the free agents, and I was just looking at the list, and it was led by Westbrook and John Wall, and I'm just going, oh god, this is gonna be dry. Well, luckily we have the, you know what, I should have came up with a nickname for them ahead of time. Whatever you want to call the Destructo Bros, whatever you got for KD and Kyrie so far, it is happening in Brooklyn. This is the events of this week, in case y'all were living under a rock. So me and Storyteller did the podcast. Like I said, I made sure so we knew it was credible. I was like, Shams and Woj have been reporting this whole Kyrie fiasco, and so it's got legs to it. And then one day, randomly, like 2 days later, he came out of nowhere with some unrelated quote, basically saying that he's resigning, and that killed all that. And I guess it was Woj. I guess it was mostly Woj doing that. I told y'all I mixed Woj and Shams up. This is one of the times where it actually matters. So I guess it was mostly Woj reporting that. And Shams was like, nah, he's opting in. Okay, cool. I guess that storyline is dead now. That's pretty much the sense you had, right? When Kyrie opted in, you thought it was pretty much over with?
Yeah, I was prepping myself. I was holding on to the rails, getting ready for the rocky road. Like,
once Kyrie opted in, like you still thought there was more. You thought the trade talk was going to continue after that?
No, I thought that I was gonna have to deal with another season of Brooklyn basketball. And so I was just preparing myself, but I don't want this to get like misconstrued. Like, people are gonna try to be like, oh, he stabbed Kyrie in the back after he opted in. Like, no, bro, Kyrie was opting in just for his money. Like, Kyrie saw the situation, he saw he couldn't get the money that he wanted in a good situation, so that's the main reason why he opted in. And being on Kevin's side of things, like, I don't really think you can blame him for leaving the situation. I mean, it's just been all bad since he's gotten there.
Yeah, that's gonna make a hell of a video. I know Secret Base is gonna make a crazy Nets video on that. I'll have mine that's significantly many levels below a Secret Base video, but I will cover the Nets, this fiasco eventually. However, I was shocked. I didn't think I had it caught me off guard completely today. Me and you were supposed to do this podcast yesterday. Before the DeJounte trade, some reason I didn't even realize that free agency was about to open in 24 hours. Thank God we didn't do it then, because we would have missed everything. I would have just had to delete the whole pod. But Kevin Durant requesting a trade, that to me just came out of nowhere. That one blindsided me, because once Kyrie resigned, or he opted in, I saw the rumblings. People were attaching it at the bottom of the tweets going, hey, this doesn't mean they aren't going to trade him. This just means that he's opted in and, you know, this is his contract now. But still, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I don't know. Shit, y'all forgive me, bro. I'm tired. I don't sleep much these days. Kevin Durant requests a trade. His two top options are Miami Heat and the Suns. Ironically, the first seed of both of these conferences. So now that has legs, because we're talking about the whole KD and Suns pairing. I think I was on another podcast over the last weekend. He said the Suns, it was a dream scenario. That's one of the places KD has actually requested now. So what do you think? Not like where KD is going. I'm sure we'll eventually get to that. But now that KD has requested a trade, do you think that makes it 100% sure Kyrie, they also deal Kyrie and just start over? Or are they do you think they'll hold on to Kyrie and just keep running with Ben Simmons or whatever they get? Because at the end of the day, I think it was on Woj's tweet saying that Durant is pretty much the hottest trade asset to hit the market pretty much ever. I don't think yeah, and so it's gonna bring a haul of picks and players. So you think this like for sure means Kyrie is gone too? You see them both gone, or do you think they might hold on to it? Because Kyrie technically, as far as I know, hasn't requested a trade, even though they're talking about him still connecting him with the Lakers and whatnot. He hadn't formally requested one.
I think the Kyrie stint in Brooklyn is over as well, especially after seeing that interview. I don't know if you've seen it, where he asked if he still wants to be a Brooklyn Net, and Kyrie just straight up dismissed the question. Like, he didn't even answer it. So I really do think that, and like teams like the Mavericks and obviously the Lakers, they've been showing interest. I don't think it'll take much to get Kyrie. It won't be easy for a team to get Kyrie, but I don't think it'll be too much of an asking price for Kyrie, because it's Kyrie Irving. It's so uncertain on when he's gonna play.
Right, and that Kyrie video, that was the part that really confused me. That Kyrie video came out the morning that he opted into the contract. Yeah. And so when I saw that video to me was a nail in the coffin. And when he passed it off, that was basically like a, yeah, not really. That gave a lot of vibes of things I've seen before when players end up leaving. So I guess that's right in line with that. And so I pretty much, I agree. At the end of the day, I put the tweet, I didn't send you the Microsoft Word document, but I retweeted earlier, this people forget from the Rockets trade with James Harden, the Rockets own all of Brooklyn's picks through like 2027. So they have swap rights to 23, the 24 first round pick, 25 swap rights, 26 first round pick, 27 swap rights. And so, and actually, as far as I know, those are unprotected as well. So it's like the Rockets, they're in a great situation if that's actually true. For the Nets, just go ahead and restart after this. It doesn't seem like Kyrie or KD have a good relationship with management there. You don't have any picks to build with, but you have two. Still, like you said, Kyrie's price is probably not that high compared to KD's. It's definitely not that high, but it's probably manageable for some team to get. But KD's price is astronomical, and so you use this chance right now, and maybe even, I don't know what Ben Simmons is worth. He'll probably just have to thug it out. I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to move him again. But yeah, you use this to rebuild, just basically start over. If you're Brooklyn, to me, it makes sense to completely start over right now. Get some picks, get some nice young players, and go from there. And we've already heard all types of stuff, man. We've heard, like, for KD, for like the Suns dangling Aiden, of course. I don't think the Nets are actually interested in that. They're trying to ask for guys like, that starting price is like Booker, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Suns to do. I mean, you get Chris Paul and KD, but I'm sure they just extended Booker too, so that's not happening. In the Miami Heat, of course, you got Bam Adebayo's on the table. Any contender that gets him is gonna have to pay something. If it was Boston, I'm pretty sure Jaylen Brown would have to get up out of there. They're not gonna give KD up for anything less than like one of the craziest hauls that we've actually seen. So that's nuts. And I guess at this point, yesterday, what we would have been doing, it seemed like the Nets it seemed like the Nets' future was pretty much stocked. Like, okay, KD and Kyrie are coming back. This was a weird saga, but they're coming back, and we would have been talking about the Nets' future in general. But that probably won't be relevant to you. But I mean, what is this ride been like over the last couple of years? Because this is just funny. I went from full-fledged championship, or like almost a short championship a year ago when you traded for Harden, to now. This is just it's splitting. But what has the ride been like, though? You thought a championship was coming at some point, you know, even after Harden went down in 2021. What has it been like just dealing with this fiasco?
Well, to see your favorite player rupture his Achilles and not watching for an entire year, that creates some uncertainty of whether he's gonna be the same or not. So I had to wait that whole year, the first year, and I didn't know what to expect. I expected him to be the same, but you never know. So when he did come back and they were, taking the whole league over before they even made the Harden trade with the pieces that they had, I didn't really understand the trade at the time. So
you weren't in support of that. You weren't in support of that trade. The Harden one with when they you didn't like that.
I understood it, but I didn't at the same time. I understood it in the fact that you can only trade for a player like that every so often and make a team like that every so often. So when they did it, I was like, all right, this is what we're rocking with. I thought for sure it was a championship, though. Like, surefire championship, 100%. And then Kyrie goes down, and that was when it got real, because if people don't remember Game 3 against the Bucks 2021, we were up by 1 after KD hit like a real clutch 3. We were up by 1 with like 10 seconds to go in Milwaukee. Joe Holiday comes down, hits a layup. All right, fine, it's a 2-1 series, but then Kyrie goes down and the whole momentum shifts. And mind you, Harden had been out the whole entire time. So that was really the start of everything. And then the foot on the line, bro. The foot on the line, man. Like, that really hurt. But then, so this year, I really did. Then the whole Kyrie thing happened, obviously. And then I expected them to make more noise than they did in the playoffs. But, they lost to the team that went to the finals, so I can't be too mad. But it's been a whole bunch of just up and downs and leading on, and Ben Simmons is gonna play, wait, he's not, and it's been just a whole bunch of. It's like if you're riding a roller coaster and you're getting to the top, and you about to fall down, and then it's like a 2-foot drop, and it just keeps happening. It keeps happening.
Right.
It's been a really rough experience as a fan for these past 3 years.
Yeah, it's when we go back and tell the story, like you said, them not even playing the first year, because KD and Kyrie, I was always really hyped to see that, and then them not even playing the first year, and then it finally happening, and they immediately go to the trade, and then the injuries, and then COVID, which was already a thing, but the vaccine mandate, which kept Kyrie out, pretty much by his choice the entire year. And then I had been saying that the whole time, and I remember when at the beginning of the year, we learned Kyrie wasn't going to play. I made that video, and throughout the year, I would just occasionally reference it that we hadn't heard anything about Kyrie and his contract. And guys were telling me, oh, no, that doesn't mean anything. He wouldn't leave. Where's he even going to go? And I kind of thought that, too. I was thinking, where is he going to go? Brooklyn with KD is kind of, that was the whole plan. So it seemed weird that it would ever devolve to where it's gotten. But I was always just kind of had the flag up like, hey, this is actually kind of a big deal. Kyrie does have an option this summer. And here we are. So we don't know.
Especially when you consider the fact that Kyrie has literally, the 2 other teams said he's not leaving. And then the very opposite happens.
Yeah, that's the part. There's a whole thing about the franchises and and Kyrie himself, but I won't get too far into it. It's a lot with Kyrie. It's a lot, and that's one thing. If you're a team that's trading for him, besides the fact that him along with AD, I think those are guys you just have to maybe count on injuries with, because there's always something wrong with them. You just have to know that whatever assets you're packaging up for Kyrie, just know he comes with a lot. And so if you're the Mavericks, do you send away a lot of defensive assets to end up with Kyrie? And Luka and Kyrie don't even make that much sense to me in the first place. If you're the Clippers, do you dig into that roster that's already set just to get Kyrie? Hell, they might. I don't know I don't know how the money would ever work, but maybe they'd be looking at KD in some capacity. That's where we're going next anyways, though. No clue what'll happen with Kyrie Irving at this point. KD, we know he wants to the Suns and Heat. We've even heard Brian Windhorst dangle the Lakers around, saying that it's floating around in some circles. They would, because we see the report that KD and Kyrie actually still want to play together, just not in Brooklyn. They still
want to be together,
which is just hilarious. There's just so much there, but whatever, man. But the one team apparently that could make that happen, because that'd be hard as hell for any team to make happen. Apparently the Lakers. And I was just thinking, how did the Lakers have any skin in the game with this type of deal? And what would they even give? But apparently the math works on Westbrook, AD, THT, and a bunch of picks for KD and Kyrie. Don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, if you're the Nets, you can get Kevin Durant does not have a no trade clause. That's important for the audience to know. And you can get a lot for KD. You don't have to settle for Westbrook, and I don't want to say settling for AD, but you can just get a better deal out there than that. But that's just funny that could like theoretically happen, and you'd have Bron, Kyrie, and KD. I don't think that's realistic.
That would be just wild.
Yeah, I don't see that's realistic. I see Kyrie can end up in LA at some point with this whole fiasco. Don't think it'll happen that way. But where is your favorite destination for Kevin Durant, being that this has been your guy since the OKC days, which is quite some time. That's like 6 years now plus. So whatever, 2014, 2013. It's a long time. Now, where would you like to see be his 1, 2, 3? What is this? His fourth team? What destination have you heard that you would like to see him in?
My favorite is Miami, because I really think, for one, I want to see Jimmy get a ring. I'm a big Jimmy guy. And two, considering the fact that they can't trade Bam in that deal, it would be Jimmy, Bam.
Oh wow,
and KD.
Wait, as long as the Nets have Ben Simmons, they can't, can they?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, you know what? I think for y'all listening, I think I don't know if it was in the podcast I deleted earlier because we had another take, but I did say something probably about like Bam Adebayo. It would start with him for the Miami Heat. They actually can't because of the something about the rookie deals or something like that, right?
Yeah. So that they cannot include Bam in the trade, but I think it's fairly realistic. For one, I'm never gonna doubt Pat Riley, and two, they have the cap fillers and Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson, but they also have a guy that could potentially be a cornerstone one day in Tyler Hero that they could build around. And you could throw in some more assets. You could throw in like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. You could throw in, whatever picks you want to send. I really do think Miami has the assets. So Miami, number one, would be my favorite destination for Kevin.
I see. And yeah, wow. So that's a big deal. As long as the Nets do have Ben Simmons in that, or as long as the Nets have Ben Simmons, they would not be able to. Cause I'll be honest with you, I'm not clear on if Ben Simmons was a part of that deal. Would they then be able to get Bam Adebayo? I've got to read up more on that because I did scroll past that earlier and all the madness.
Yeah,
and
I'm pretty sure if Ben Simmons was a part of it, I'm like 95% sure. That's what I saw.
I see.
He would have to be a part of the deal.
So in that case, that Bam would be there still. Like if you're the Nets, damn, they would end up keeping Bam, Jimmy, and KD if that did happen. I saw some tweet from some blue check mark saying about including Jimmy Butler in the deal. But if you're the Nets, I think you're looking for guys younger than Jimmy. I don't think and Jimmy has a hefty contract too, so I don't think that's necessarily what you're looking for. If you're Brooklyn, you're looking to tear it down. Definitely get young pieces like we said, but also replenish your picks too, because that's gonna be a big thing going forward. Just start it from the bottom and get what you can in the next 2, 3, 4 years through the draft. No reason to try to like run a Kyrie and Jimmy thing next year, because especially it just doesn't feel like Kyrie wants to be there anymore. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up doing a trade request next. Okay, so yeah, Miami, and God, in that situation, man, Miami. Oh, see, this is the problem, right? This is the problem because on the podcast, by the way, for those of y'all listening, the podcast I was on, I retweeted it on Twitter. I think it was called the Impact Show. It was something like that. A guy who works for Bleacher Report. and he was asking me if Boston had to get in on this KD sweepstakes, which I'm sure they're probably picking up the phone for. Would I want to give up Jaylen Brown and some draft picks or whatever? Just basically a deal centered around Jaylen Brown for KD, and I was so 50-50 on it. But the one thing that, and I said my official answer was no, but the one thing that kind of pushes me to yes is, and this goes for any Eastern team, but what do you do if another Eastern team gets KD and they're actually in good position? Like if you're Boston, you're looking at it took you 7 games to beat Miami last year, and one of the main problems he had was just those times where they stalled on scoring, basically. What happens if they get their hands on Kevin Durant and you could have gotten him? Then what? You deal with KD, Jimmy.
You're going from Tyler Hero to Kevin Durant. Like, it's going to be very, very scary. And in a system like Spo, bro, like that's always something I wanted to see KD in, like a really elite defensive unit. And I really think the Heat could be scary with Kevin.
That would be super scary. I'm already... of course, we've been hearing Donovan Mitchell's name linked to the Heat forever, and that's already a headache enough. But KD in Miami, boy. So that's one. You talked about the Suns. The Suns probably looking to get rid. I mean, Aiden's looking to leave too. So the Suns will be done with Aiden probably one way or another this summer. And especially if they ended up with KD, I would assume, whether the Nets want him or not, that'd probably be like a 3-team deal or something. There's something there that would involve Aiden leaving, but whatever. I feel like you would end up being left with Paul, Booker, and KD. In my opinion, and I'm curious what you think about this. No matter what the Suns have to do to get KD, I think they should go for it. Because Paul, you don't know how many years you have left of Chris Paul, which how many every years you have left of Paul is not a lot at a tip-top level. Age is catching up with him. He's 37 years old, I believe. I think in the Dallas series, one thing that happened that's kind of underrated, they were able to take away a lot from him. He's still probably the most important guy on the team, being the floor general that he is. But he's obviously not prime Chris Paul, and he can be stonewalled in a series like he was in Dallas. And so then you start going down the line. Now it's up to Devin Booker. After Devin Booker, you don't really have a sure third. From my perspective, if the Suns, if there's any way they can get KD, and if you end up with Paul, Booker, and KD and a lot of like questionable stuff around them, I would still prefer that, honestly, and just going for it and to try to maximize this window with Chris Paul, just because it kind of seems like, to be honest, I thought it would have been over after 2021, but he came in this year and had a great season, but then they ran out of gas by the time it was, conference finals. I think you put it all on the table for KD. Is that how you see it, or are you looking at saying, Mikal Bridges is still there, it's a young team, they could take that direction?
I don't know. If you're gonna lose Ayton, I'd rather lose Ayton and Mikal Bridges as well, but get Kevin Durant in return. But when you look at the roster, I don't know, like the surrounding pieces, like they would need a big then, because JaVale just left and Ayton is gone.
Bismack Biyombo.
Bismack will be playing heavy minutes in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, man. But one thing, like down the stretch, they're gonna have guys that you can just put on the island and let them go to work, and they're gonna make it happen. Like they can be really scary offensively, but on the defensive end, I'm kind of looking at a little sideways with the Phoenix Suns. That's why I kind of don't really want them to go to Phoenix, if I'm being honest.
Right. Yeah, because you're probably, I would say, in a better championship situation if you end up in Miami. If you're Kevin Durant, that's because the Suns are leaning like that trio is doing a lot of lifting in that scenario. And there's no world, I don't believe there's a world where you get KD and Aiden is still on the roster. You're like, okay, so we still have the rolling big who is improving, and then KD on top of that. I don't think that ends up happening. I think it ends up mostly being those three. And in that specific scenario, again, yeah, KD's not a defender anymore. Like there was a time where his tools the tools that he has could kind of make up for it. I think after the Achilles injury, it's been kind of affected on defense, in my opinion. And then you look at, if Mikal is not there in that situation, that's a big deal, which he probably wouldn't be. If you get KD, Mikal is gone. Like there's no way you get KD on the Suns without Mikal Bridges. And so you're right, the defensive end ends up becoming a massive issue there. But that nonetheless is a place that he wants to go, though. He would like the ball with Book, like the ball with Paul, and Chris Paul and KD on the same team. That's beautiful. That would be
very beautiful.
Yeah, that would be the best situation
like
Chris Paul's
down the stretch. And I mean, I can see that happening, because if you look at Brooklyn's end, if they were able to, say if it was a 2-team deal, sign and trade with Ayton, and you get Mikal. I mean, honestly, if I'm Brooklyn, I don't know if I necessarily tank, because I don't have my picks.
Yeah.
I don't have any of my picks. So I don't really see why I would necessarily tank if I can get a guy like Ayton on top of Mikal Bridges. Like Ayton, Mikal Bridges,
right,
and Simmons on the same team.
Right.
Sign me up, bro. Sign me up.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because they sent so many of their picks to Houston in that Harden deal. If you end up with young guys that are already kind of established and you see the trajectory of their careers, then I know we saw a report that said they didn't have any interest in Ayton, but if that ends up being the deal, and like you just said, you get that and a couple of other players, maybe you are happy with that instead of just trying to restock the picks and going from there. Because at the end of the day, you're getting defensive player level of the year potential from Bridges. Ayton still has room to get better. So maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe Brooklyn gets young guys that are literally already in the league and not worry about. In that scenario, maybe you still do want some picks. I kind of feel like wherever they send KD, it's gonna involve some picks for sure, and they can ask for whatever they want. So I'm sure that that's something that they'll be looking at. But yeah, those two scenarios are infinitely interesting. I think of the two, especially if Bam Adebayo is able to stay in Miami somehow, which feels like it would involve a third team then, because if they can't get Bam and they're not getting Jimmy, there's got to be like Hero, it's got to be picks, and there's got to be like 2 other players on top of that too. So it feels like there's more players involved in that deal. But as we saw, Brooklyn is operating under the pretense that the entire roster is available now. Everybody's available from top to bottom. Nick Claxton just resigned, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but he's a part of the roster still. And let me keep Sham's page open just in case.
Well, speaking of that, I don't know if you've seen Kyle Anderson went to the Timberwolves.
Okay.
And DeLon Wright went to the Warriors. Not the Warriors, the Wizards.
Okay. No, I hadn't seen it. Yeah, see, that's why I said I gotta open up the page. Shams don't even have that on here yet. Interesting. His last one was Kevin Knox to the Pistons. So we'd definitely be talking about some of those smaller deals as we move forward. Wrapping up this section, because at this point we're basically at the part where KD has requested a trade, so this is officially probably going to go south. My brother was asking me earlier, and y'all know this, y'all follow the game more than he does. It was like, technically they don't have to trade him, but yeah, no, when star player like KD or Kyrie asks for a trade, like you just go ahead and do it. That's the power dynamic in this league. This is the thing that people would, I can't remember in the Twitch chat when I think I don't know, we were having a Kyrie discussion, and I was saying always if things got shaky with Kyrie, that would leave KD in a bad situation. And I had people telling me, oh, KD can't do this. He's on his contract is this big. I'm like, KD can do what the fuck he wants. Like he's Kevin Durant.
He could go to the Pistons and get another trade at the deadline if he wanted to. Like he can do whatever he wants, bro.
Yeah, this is a valuable trade asset, exactly. And if you're the Nets, it behooves you to trade a guy that's pretty much at the highest value he'll be at for probably the rest of his career, instead of hanging on to him and trying to thug it out like the Sixers were saying they were going to do with Ben Simmons. Like, yeah, you can do that, but Ben Simmons is not KD. Ben Simmons didn't have that juice. KD has that juice. So we're assuming this will pretty much be a done deal at some point this summer. I don't think either one of them will play another game for the Nets.
Wild, bro.
That is so wild.
Unexpected.
What's even wilder, I don't know if you would caught it, this happened 3 years exactly from the day that they signed
clean sweep.
him. Clean sweep. Clean.
Undone.
And the industry, we call that a clean sweep. No, today's a clean sweep. Like, Brooklyn is knocked over the board. I'll ask you.
KD traded first for Royce O'Neal and said, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that Royce O'Neal deal just got completely swept under the rug because it happened like at the same time this happened. My last thing with this, because unless there's something else that you want to ask about it or whatever, my question, you kind of heard what I thought about the Celtics and Jaylen Brown, if that was a deal. If you were Boston, is that something, like, would you be on the yes or no side of that, where it costs you Jaylen Brown picks or whatever, a deal centered around Jaylen Brown for KD? If you're Boston, do you do that? I thought hard about it when I got asked it, especially I actually have stakes in it.
Because I don't know, man. Like, I really think if you run it back with that same roster, like if you could do this season completely over and you run it back with that same roster and you just add a playmaker to that team, like they might be hoisting up a championship right now. So I don't really know, but at the end of the day, Kevin Durant, like he would take them to even greater level. The inconsistencies on the offensive end, stagnant, would be out the window, and Tatum would probably be better next season. I really don't know, man. I mean, it depends on what you're asking. If you're asking for Jaylen Brown and 15 million picks, probably not.
It's depends on, it literally just depends, because this is the question that Celtics fans will be answering, even though they're not the likely spot for KD, but it will be a conversation that happens. And I guess it just depends on which side of the fence you fall on in terms of what to do with this window over the next 4 to 6 years, because Jaylen Brown and Tatum have a window for a while, and you can see what happens. But then KD is 33 years old, turning 34 before the season, I believe. And so you get him, you're like, all right, well, we're maximizing what we can do in the next 2 to 3 years, because he will probably by 2025, this will probably be wraps. Not sure how long he'll be able to play, but he's had a torn Achilles. Like I said, defense is already not what it was, despite him getting, am I remembering it correctly? Did he get like all defensive votes or something like that? I don't know. Something ridiculous. It just depends on which side of that you fall on, and it's a risk either way, because Jaylen Brown and Tatum, 2 wins away from an NBA championship, roster just missing 1 or 2 things, so it just depends. But I'll tell you, I probably wouldn't offer much pushback if I saw KD traded to Boston, because instant gratification and shit, right? Like,
at the end of the day, I mean, one championship is worth 10 years of suffering in the NBA. A championship is so valued nowadays.
Right. Yeah, because it's not guaranteed you're going to win multiple. That's the whole thing. You might go, oh, maybe you only get like 1 title with KD, but Jason Tatum and Brown can contend and maybe give you 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is not guaranteed. 1 is not even guaranteed. So it literally just depends. If you're a Celtics fan and you're listening to this, it totally just depends. But it's a conversation that probably doesn't matter anyways, because I don't think KD is going to end up there. A sleeper place I would love to see him is Portland, as I wrap this up. No, Damian Lillard posted the Photoshop of them playing together, which is just hilarious. I could have sworn players used to get fined for this type of thing, but DeJounte Murray did it with Levine a couple of months ago. Nobody from the league cared. And then, Damian Lillard did it. But yeah, I'd love to see him in Portland, because I want to see Dame contend. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Y'all listening, Kevin Durant has put the nail in the coffin on this Brooklyn era. Now it is just a question of where he will be traded. He and Kyrie both being traded this summer has the power to shift the NBA on its, flip it over on its head. Like I said, no trade clause, or Kevin Durant does not have a no trade clause, so it doesn't have to be Miami or the Suns. It could be a lot of different places. Hell, what if somehow he ended up on the Nuggets? I have no clue how that could happen, but KD and Jokic, there's a lot that could happen. So we will see. The Nets will definitely be doing what's best for them. More free agent things happen though. They dominated the talk today, but let's move on to some of the other names until we get down to names that people probably don't really recognize. And this, as a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do the trade first. The trade that happened yesterday. DeJounte Murray is an Atlanta Hawk. If you've been listening to the pod long enough, remember the DeJounte Murray praise from earlier in the season, was definitely tracking his progress, really loved what I saw, had no clue, not even the slightest clue, that he was going to be on the chopping block as far as being traded from the Spurs anytime soon. I thought they were going to take him in and just try to improve the roster, but no, they're going full rebuild. They see Victor Wembanyama standing at like 10 feet tall, crossing over like he's a shooting guard and whatnot, and they're like, all right, bet we'll take that, or we'll do our best to take that. And so that's San Antonio's goal, win as little as possible next year. And because of that, they went ahead and got rid of DeJounte for, oh gosh, I gotta pull up the exact deal, but it was pretty much like picks, right?
Gallinari and 3 first-round picks.
Gallinari and 3 first-round picks. Unprotected, except for the Hornets one, I believe. I believe there was a Hornets pick involved in that deal that actually is. But aside from that, either way, that is not a high price for DeJounte Murray, man. That's not a high price. When I saw that was the asking, the going market for him, I was just thinking, damn, is there a way Boston can get into this? Because the Spurs look like they're just trying to get rid of him, basically.
Yeah,
They did, because they just want to take
for him.
Yeah, and so that happened. We saw that he was rumored to be an Atlanta Hawk. That is what ended up coming to fruition. Right off the bat, what do you think about the fit? Just so I can finish my part. Again, if you're Atlanta, I'll let you go. What do you think about the fit with DeJounte on the Hawks and specifically next to Trae Young?
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, defensively, massive upgrade from running lineups like Bogdanovich and Trae and Trae and Herder.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the offensive end, I started to make a video about this, but I was like, this is too simple. Offensive end, you're getting another ball handler, another scorer alongside Trae Young. That was a big problem last year when they played in Miami Heat. It was just a bunch of, P&R between Trae and Okongwu, and it just wasn't. It wasn't looking very, very diverse, as I say. It just looked like a game of 2K out there, man. Like, it was just really, really stagnant, and it was just back and forth. So getting another ball handler is really important. I just think that this can really, really propel Atlanta forward.
Yeah, so propelling them forward, and that's where I was going to go with this. So there's certainly questions about the fit, right? But if you're Atlanta and your goal this summer, you saw what happened. So back up in 2021, you nearly made the finals. If you hadn't gotten hurt, you might have been in the finals, but that was a lightning in the bottom moment. This season was significantly worse, and they came in, and as you said, stonewalled by the Miami Heat. Pick and rolls were getting blown up against a team that has great defense. That it just wasn't going to go far, and it didn't. Even though Trae, when he has the ball and he's initiating P&R and whatnot, it's one of the best playmakers in the league, and he can get an offense really, really productive. But yeah, like you said, big problem when he's the only guy that can do it, and you run into a perfect matchup, you get shut out. So if that's your goal, is to say, okay, let's address that problem, and you can do it for a price as little as Gallinari and some picks. Like, you almost just say, damn the fit. We'll figure it out, right? We will figure it out. Because the questions with the fit are, DeJounte Murray is not really a 2. He's, in terms of like play style, he's not a guy that's going to be running around the perimeter and catching and shooting. He's not going to space the floor. That's immediately something you have to figure out. Players are going to hang off of him. They're going to sag off of him. When Trae has the ball and he's running P&R, guys are going to swing over, or shade over a little bit, and probably make that a little bit more difficult. But that's pretty much, like, that's kind of where the issues stop. That's the one question, is what does DeJounte Murray do off ball? You can kind of question it too and say, what does Trae do off ball? Because he's not known for that. As much as we compare his shot, his range to Steph and all that, he doesn't do all the off ball stuff Steph does. He doesn't run off of screens. He doesn't continuously move. He hasn't added that to his game. Playing with DeJounte, I feel like, has the potential to push Trae's game forward in that regard, because to make it work, inevitably, and to get the most out of Murray, you will probably need to have the ball in his hands sometimes. It'll take it out of Trae's, and it'll take away that monster P&R game that he has, and basically take away some of what he does as a floor general when DeJounte has it. But like you said, again, it's a second guy that can do it, which is important. I'm sure you can stagger some lineups to where I'm gonna guess DeJounte or Trae will probably be on the floor pretty much at all times, like one of those two. That's awesome, because you're gonna always have a playmaker out there now. That's a big upgrade. And when DeJounte has the ball and they're on the floor together, that's where Trae has got to add some things to his game. And that's where maybe even you look out as if, I don't know what's left in free agency, but if you're Atlanta, look for some guys who are good screen setters. Look for some guys who are high IQ players, because Trae's going to need to add that now. That will just make that offense more dangerous. 2 playmakers, and now Trae has an off-ball component. I believe he'll be forced to master to maximize DeJounte. That could really get scary. And that's going in the right direction if you're at Atlanta. Again, you didn't pay anything for this. You still have Okongwu. You still have DeAndre Hunter, who's also an important defender for them. Like, you still have Kevin Huerter, who's an important shooter for them.
I don't think they're done though. Like, they still have Capella and Collins that they could package and do whatever. They could still go get Gobert if they wanted to, bro. And on the defensive end,
oh gosh,
oh my goodness, they could get really, really scary on the defensive end.
So that's the interesting part, right? Is the John Collins. We've heard him linked to the Miami Heat. We've heard him linked to a couple of other teams. They seem, the vibe I'm getting is that they're hell-bent to end up moving John Collins. And so that, like you said, yeah, they're pretty much not done wheeling and dealing. So a lot of these teams who've made some moves yesterday probably aren't done yet. I'm going to hope for the next team that we talk about that they're not done. Otherwise, they look crazy. But yeah, the Hawks, just in terms of this fit so far, I'm excited to see how it works for sure. But another thing, like you said, defense, that's the really obvious part. Trae Young, not a good defender at all. You put DeJounte out there, now all of a sudden he's the point of attack defender. You can just hide Trae out there somewhere. That's great. And DeJounte is really good. If you're not familiar with DeJounte's game, because I realize he's not a flashy star and was playing for the Spurs. Nobody cares about the Spurs. For those of y'all listening, if you've not really watched DeJounte, again, one of my favorite floater games in the league so far. Averaged around 20-something points last year. He did end up making the All-Star team too by replacement, did he not? He did make the, yeah. He did
he made it this year.
Yeah, he did end up making it. And, you know, playing with San Antonio, this is why I get it for them, because as I'm tracking his progress and the development of his game, this is cool, and he's good, and he can be an all-star player, maybe like a lower level all-star player, but also probably not the number one guy that's gonna help rebuild a team. You know what I mean? It's probably not gonna be the first option when the San Antonio Spurs are a championship team. And so from their perspective, that's pretty much, I've pretty much gotten through what I had to say about the fit with them on the Hawks. I would say the last thing that I hope to see from Murray is when guys are playing off of him. I want to see his IQ, because again, he's not a 2. So I do want to see his IQ when guys are playing off of him, if he's able to cut right, if he's able to eat up space, if he's able to attack space when he does get the ball. If Trae can get him the ball while he's got a head of steam and a guy is backed off of him to, you know, take away PNR or whatever. Really interested to see that part of Murray's game. So that's cool. For the San Antonio Spurs, it makes sense. You were, they were like a close to a play-in team, whatever happened this year. You're bottom of the Western Conference, and it ends up. Yeah, remind me real quick where they were in the West. Do you remember? Where did they end up? 10th. So they ended up. Was there a playing game with them this year? I can't remember.
Yeah, they played
the Pelicans, right?
Yeah, they played the Pelicans.
Gosh, I tell you, once the playoffs happened, I went into like just straight playoff twilight zone. I forgot a lot of regular season details. But anyways, so yeah, if you're the Spurs, you look and say, okay, we're at that spot. Keldon Johnson is a cool piece. DeJounte is a cool piece, but we're probably not building anything around them that fast. You don't want to end up getting stuck in no man's land. So why not just go ahead and tear it all down? To be honest, they've been, for lack of a better way to put it, they've been fucked since Kawhi Leonard left. That was their whole plan, was rebuilding with Kawhi. Not even rebuilding with Kawhi, just passing the torch to him practically. And him and LaMarcus Aldridge were supposed to take it, and they were supposed to contend. That did not happen. They've kind of been stuck in this weird place, because then they got DeMar DeRozan, who put them pretty much in no man's land. Once you had DeRozan and Aldridge, that was no man's land. And then you just kind of slowly inch your way to a rebuild, which they never actually wanted to do. Now you're here, and it makes sense. Just tear it all down, and if you're going to rebuild, do it the right way. This is a perfect time, because the Western Conference is packed in this coming year with the healthy teams. This Western Conference is packed, so this is a great time to just break it down and say, all right, cool, start from zero. Do you know much or anything about Victor Wembanyama? Has he been catching your eye?
Matter of fact, last night, bro, because I was like, okay, they're tanking. And then they kept spamming this Victor kid. And I'm like, yo, let me go look at this dude, bro. I am sold, 100% sold, bro. I don't care what you got to say. I don't care how much muscle he don't got. I'm sold. You trade the whole house for that dude when the time comes. When the time comes and they got 3 Atlanta picks and they got their own pick and they got to trade up to the first, you do it. I don't care, man. That kid's legit. He's like 7'3", 7'4", doing things that should not be done.
So for those of y'all who are not familiar, if you've seen a picture of Wembanyama standing next to Chet, he makes Chet Holmgren look small. Like, he legit makes him look small, but he also handles the ball. He puts the ball on the floor. He does. It's pretty much no joke. I know we probably use this with other unicorns we've seen in the league. He actually looks like a broken created player that you would make back in the day in 2K, when that was still a fun thing to do, when you would just create a player and make his attributes ridiculous for his body size. That's what Victor Wembanyama looks like to me. That's what I see with him. And so I've been hearing his name little by little throughout this season, and now we're at this point. It seems like a team is making moves to position themselves for him next year. I will say, if I don't blame San Antonio, I see why they're going for the fences here, because you're like, all right, yeah, this DeJounte thing is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. I get it. Burn it down and shoot for the stars next year. Because
like, I no kidding. I hate when people compare people to KD, but this dude literally gives flashes of KD while still giving flashes of Giannis, bro. It's crazy. Yeah. Like he's nuts, man.
Absolutely. It's the most ridiculous player build I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. So Victor Wembanyama talk will be heavy. The propaganda will be heavy on this podcast throughout the year. You've heard it here first on, really this podcast will probably drop July 1st. Just prepare yourselves. It's coming. And so that's pretty much what I have to say about DeJounte on the Hawks. I want to see more of what the Hawks do. Very, very fascinated by this pairing. I want to see how many different ways they unlock what they can do. And because their potential is pretty high, and again, for this price, it was a great risk. So damn if I'm sure DeJounte will make an effort over the summer as well to improve his shot, because it will help if he can at least knock down some 3-pointers and keep the defense honest with Trey out there trying to do what he can with the ball. But yeah, I'm excited though. Good on the Hawks for doing that, because y'all remember me saying with that specific roster, they were never going to make that 2021 run again. The Eastern Conference got too strong. That roster, the way it was never going to do that again. And so that's good stuff for the Hawks. Let's move on to the team I was going to talk about before the Hawks, the New York Knicks. Now, what is it about what happened with Jalen Brunson that everyone knew 2 months ago this was going to happen? You remember that, right? When he was hooping against the Utah Jazz and everyone said he was going to the Knicks immediately, or am I having false memories?
No, bro. Everybody knew it was so predictable, bro. You see this kid that's about to be a free agent, that's not really a hot commodity, that the Knicks can just pour their whole salary into. They're going to do it, bro.
So the Knicks paid Brunson $110 million. So it's going to break down. And again, this is pretty much just his price. If you look at the market for guards right now, this is pretty much what the price is. So it's kind of just where the market is right now. So they give him $110 million. I think here we go, y'all. Everything in life is optics. It felt like the Knicks were moving heaven and earth to get this done. And this is why I'm hoping that they're not done yet, because Jalen Brunson is good. Don't get me wrong. He's good, especially against Utah's non-defending lineup. He was really good. He found some places to be effective in that Sun series. Brunson is a good player. It also just felt like the Knicks, because we kind of meme them for this type of thing and giving out a big deal to somebody who doesn't seem like in a couple of years he'll be in. I don't know if Brunson's ever gonna be an all-star, so that's what it feels like, right? They went through a lot of trouble for a guy who we don't know if he's ever actually gonna be an all-star player, but he does help the roster, and they just need to keep going is all I'm saying. They need to keep looking. They need to keep making some deals. I'm not sure what you're going to get for Julius Randle out there, because it doesn't seem like there's a market, especially on the contract he's on. So I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do to alleviate themselves of that. But it was a lot, man. I'm not going to lie to you. It just felt like there was a lot. And it strikes me as a deal that in a couple of years might just end up being like, oh, like Brunson is good, he's making this much, or the Knicks have this much money tied up into him. Why? It just kind of feels like that's the way it's going. Now, they can do some cool things this summer. If they can make another move, they can get another guy. It kind of makes sense. And it doesn't even not make sense right now. It just felt like it was a lot of stuff to do for Jalen Brunson and a lot of moves to make for Jalen Brunson, because they've been clearing space since draft night pretty much. So this happens. You've got the way the Knicks ended the season last year. Obi Toppin, they let him play like the last few games and actually get the minutes I believe he should have been getting. So want to see more development from him. I liked the trajectory. I liked the trajectory of RJ Barrett, because he seemed like he was improving last year, especially in getting more touches. To me, what the Knicks seem like to me, it's really a thing where Tibbs came in, and immediately, Tibbs is a veteran guy. Tibbs is like if the players earn their spot, that's who we're going with. And that's the season that Julius Randle had his all-star year. When it felt like, I remember saying it when it happened, it felt like they drafted Obi Toppin. The Knicks didn't feel like they were going to be a contending team anytime soon. I was just going, just go ahead and start developing your young guys now. Instead, Julius Randle had an all-star year, and they were like 5th or 4th in the Eastern Conference. And then they went right back to not even no man's land. Yeah, exactly. Right back after that. So that whole year that could have been used for development was used for likely Julius Randle's only all-star season of his career, unless he comes back, unless he revitalizes himself. So it was kind of weird. But the Brunson deal, it's been funny to track because of how much it took to happen. But what do you think about it for the Knicks? Just any thoughts that you have about it, whether it's the money, whether it's like his play style fitting here, or if he's actually going to build upon what he did in Dallas. And then we'll probably talk about some of this from Dallas perspective too, because I feel like that's the part that's kind of being overlooked is, damn, that was Luka's number 2.
Yeah, I mean, like on paper, didn't the Knicks re-sign Mitch, right?
I saw his name. Let me just look it up real quick. You can keep going, but I'm pretty sure Robinson. Okay, so it says he's likely to resign with the Knicks on a 4-year, $60 million deal one day ago. So he'll probably be returning.
Okay, so you get Mitch, you have Mitch back. So looking at a lineup of like Brunson, Reddish, Barrett, Randle, and Mitch. Not too bad, but they just have guys on the roster where it's just like, why? Like, why is Fournier getting this much money? Why is Derrick Rose on this roster? He doesn't fit the timeline at all. Like, I don't understand what their trajectory is. I don't understand what the point of them having guys like Derrick Rose and Fournier on the roster when they can just give their guys more touches. They need to get touches like Obi Toppin, like Barrett. So I don't understand why they still have those pieces around. But as far as getting Brunson, I just don't think you needed to do all of that to get Brunson. Like, if Brunson really wanted to go there, I think you could have possibly got it done. But I don't think Brunson is a guy that you just say, hey, we're trading all these players to clear this much salary. Like, it's about to be Kevin Durant coming there. Like, no, like, it's Jalen Brunson.
And so, there's a lot. That's where I say there's probably going to be more moves. You're talking about the guys on the roster that seem like they don't really fit anymore. Again, left over from the fact that they were trying to juice the roster up from the playoff run that they made. I think, again, if they were 4th or 5th that one year, I think they thought they were going to come in and like continue and build on that. So now it's time to just let that go. Fam, you got young guys. You've got Brunson here, who's a good player again, but start and getting your young guys as many reps as you can and getting them in set roles for the future. Just go with that. And so Randle, I agree, Rose probably should not be a Knick past this year, even though he did really good in 2021. And you could argue that, like, as a vet and whatnot, maybe that's a cool thing, but also I just want to see Rose on a different team anyways. Just move him on to a contender. And Fournier, that's a funny thing. That's always a funny topic.
I think. And Tibbs is the wrong coach for this team, bro. Tibbs is the wrong coach for this team, bro. Like you said, like, you gotta earn your spot. Like, no, bro. Like, the other guys get their touches.
Yeah, because I fully thought when they picked Toppin where he did, I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna see a lot of Obi Toppin and let him play through his mistakes. And they're like, nope, Randle All-Star year. It was cool for that year, but also now where are you? He's there on a ton of money and probably nowhere to go. So I don't know. Hindsight is 2020. Let's talk about it from the Maverick standpoint, because damn, they didn't even get a chance to like answer. From what I heard, I saw a tweet that said the Mavs didn't even get the opportunity to offer him anything. So obviously Brunson has family ties with the Knicks and his agent. Like, there's a lot of family ties with New York. He just wanted to be there. That's a thing that's been talked about for months. Then they actually started making moves, so he wanted to be there. But for Dallas, that's a bigger loss, I think, than people are talking about, because especially when Luka went down, that was part of the reason they were still winning, is Brunson was able to step into that one option and create all those pressure points against Utah, or really just take advantage of the pressure points that exist within Utah's defense. Now, he's able to do that, and then when they're on the floor together, once again, you can talk about better fitting players with Luka, but just for where that roster is, and Luka being relatively young, because this was only his third or fourth year pretty much, Brunson that seems like a pretty big loss there. It's for nothing too. He walked as a free agent, so now if you're Dallas, you're going, damn, the Western Conference Finals, and so far you've drafted Jaden Hardy, who I'm not sure is going to have an immediate impact. He's from the G League Ignite. I think that's a huge loss for Dallas, and I'm really interested to see what they do in free agency. I guess we can kind of circle back around to this, and you can give me whatever other thoughts you have about Dallas, but I remember Dallas being one of the teams that was on Kyrie's list. That one intrigued me. And if you're a team and Kyrie wants to go there and you already have another star player, just kind of like when we were talking about Murray and Trey with the fit, if you can get it for a decent price, you generally just figure things like that out. But I don't even know, because that's kind of what I was just saying. There's better fits for Luka than Brunson. I think that's one of the reasons Brunson didn't even give the Mavs a chance. It's because he kind of wanted to go to a place where he could be his own guy and he could get more touches and he could do more of what he did against Utah. And so I think that's one of the reasons he walked. He don't want to sign and play next to Luka for a while. I kind of get those vibes if there was a Kyrie Luka pairing. I don't think that's what Dallas needs to push them to the next level, but I don't know, maybe if you feel differently, that definitely let me know, because it is two rapid scores at that point. But that was one of the teams that was linked, and yeah, Dallas is in a weird spot now, having just made the conference finals.
I don't know what their cap situation is, but like, I think you got to start looking at guys like, let's give, even though it's kind of the same area of the player, let's find out what Colin Sexton is looking for. And, let's go look at a guy like that. Maybe, and a big maybe, if you could find a way to get Zach LaVine, go for it. 100% go for it. But they're going to have to really get freaky with the negotiations and free agency, because they don't have much time before Luka's like, all right, I'm out of here.
And that's the part, right? Like, even for LaVine, he's pretty much been reported to already have the ink on the paper with the Bulls. He's probably going to resign there, so that's not even going to be an option. Yeah, if you're the Mavs, I know the dream was kind of, as funny as it is to use Dream and Gobert in a sentence, for what they needed, it kind of felt like if there was any way possible to get Gobert on that roster, it'd be cool. I think that was something that could have upgraded the Mavericks roster. But yeah, now losing Brunson, I remember watching the playoffs and going, you don't want to lose him, because like you just said, maybe it won't happen anytime soon, but eventually, after enough years of Luka having to play teams like the Warriors and depending on guys like Reggie Bullock and whoever else just to hit open shots, but he doesn't actually have like other star help next to him. Stars only do that for so long before they eat. I think that's like what the Atlanta Hawks were thinking of when they got DeJounte. Like, let's just go ahead and nip this in the bud now. Hell, that's what the Pistons, even though Cade Cunningham he's a rookie, or he was a rookie, but still, they're already moving heaven and earth to surround him, because you just want to avoid that. You know that day comes eventually. And so now the Mavericks, it is kind of like, I'm gonna start raising my eyebrow in a couple of years. If they don't have nothing shaking, then, well, we know what happens next. We're watching.
Well, I mean, hey, at this point, you trade everything in the house, all the picks that are on the paper, whatever assets, whatever is gonna be asked. Try to get Kevin Durant. Try it.
Oh yeah. If there was a way for you do that if you're Dallas. 100%. That's the funny thing with KD. It feels like the whole league is kind of, if you're a team that's doing anything important right now, it feels like you're at least drawing on paper how you can get Kevin Durant. Whether you're the Clippers or the Celtics or any team right now that even has a way, like you're kind of like filling in pieces of the puzzle right now of how could I finesse KD on this roster? And if you're the Mavs, you 1,000% look at that.
I don't care who the supporting cast is. I really don't care. Just make it happen.
Yeah, if you could find any way to do that in terms of salary, whatever, bro. Yeah, you do that. So that's pretty much the Jalen Brunson talk. Knicks fans, if you're the Knicks fan listening to this pod, just know, again, I separate what I said. I said there was a lot done for Brunson, and there was just a whole lot of chatter around that for a guy that's just interesting for that specific guy. But I'm waiting to see what y'all do next. I'm waiting to see what happens with the rest of the roster. And we'll see. But I'm just gonna be honest. It 100% seems like a deal in a couple of years we could just be looking at like, wow, I remember when that happened and I was not high on it. But we'll see though. We'll see. They got a good player, so there's that. After that, it starts getting to some of the smaller deals and some of the things that we knew were gonna happen. So Russell Westbrook obviously picked up his option, but still kind of in the air as to whether he's gonna even play for the Lakers, because now Kyrie is once again available. Just last week on this podcast, we talked a whole lot about Kyrie being on that roster. If Kyrie's there, Westbrook is not. Whether it was a deal, a straight up deal, whatever happens, whether Westbrook is on the Nets or it was another team involved, we do know if that Kyrie is on that roster. Westbrook is probably not, but for the time being, why would he not opt into $40 million? He's not gonna get that anywhere else. So the Lakers will either be figuring it out with him next year, or they will be dealing with Kyrie and Braun, which not even dealing with, that would be awesome for them. But I did want to stop here shortly though for the Lakers. I like their move so far though. Lonnie Walker has not been able to fully put it together with San Antonio, but there was a couple of games near the end of the season where you could see the flashes and you could see the ideas of what San Antonio wanted to get from him. That did not happen. So you've already picked up a young guy in Lonnie Walker, and they got Damian Jones, which is a guy that I felt like they needed in 2021, but they got him now. Damian Jones playing for the Kings, so y'all might not really know anything about him other than that he's athletic. You've probably seen some things like that before, but yeah, young and athletic. Not a bad passer for big men, and of course on defense will definitely be an upgrade. But whatever they had going on, and DeAndre Jordan has been gone, so that's not really part of the convo. But there was a time where DeAndre Jordan was getting Laker minutes, which was very fascinating. So Damian Jones take those. I like what the Lakers are on right now. Kyrie is heavily linked to LA. Is that your favorite Kyrie spot, or is there like another spot for you? Because I had pretty much already done all the Kyrie talk last week and established it. Give me Kyrie and LeBron all day, every day. Again, I would love to see them run it back, but is there a place you'd rather see him?
I don't. The thing with Kyrie is, bro, it's so hard because you don't really know if you're gonna get to see it play out. Like, we can be like, okay, yeah, Kyrie's on the Lakers, but is he gonna play? A team with Kyrie and Anthony Davis on the same team, like, are they gonna make it through? But as far as destinations, perfect world. I mean, if the Mavericks can get it done, I say you go for it, because it's not looking like there's too many better options right now. Shoot, if you're the Clippers, it depends on what it costs. Maybe. Nah. I was gonna say a team like the Bucks, but nah.
Yeah, there's good vibes over there in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I knew I was thinking of it when I was talking about Dallas. It slipped my mind, but it was a smaller deal thing anyways. That's where JaVale McGee went. So that's a good grab for Dallas. It's not, it doesn't really do anything for their creation, obviously, that they just lost in Jalen Brunson. But JaVale McGee was, exactly the type of player I thought that, especially, what is this, only 3 years, 20 million? Yeah, JaVale McGee is a good grab for Dallas. So shout out to them for at least getting that done. I've seen, if Luka can make Dwight Powell as much of a lob threat as he was last year, like, JaVale McGee is going to be fun. JaVale McGee and Luka is going to be cool. And JaVale is fresh off of the best season probably of his career as well. So shout out to Dallas for getting that done. The Lakers, obviously, I commend them for going, as Maples put it on Twitter. Jason Maples, he's a fun Twitter follow. He's a Laker fan. He said they're not running with the retirement home this year. So that's awesome. They did lose Malik Monk, but that opened some things up. And so that's the two moves that they've made so far.
Speaking of Malik Monk, the only problem I have with this is that they're signing these guys to these 1-year deals. They're going to have another Malik Monk situation if it ends up working out and these guys are really good. They're going to have these guys that are going to be getting more of a bag next year, but you're not gonna have 47 to worry about. Westbrook. So I kind of see it, but I just wish they, a little bit of a longer deal, like maybe 2 years. That's
one thing, but then also I think everybody's kind of reading. If you're the Lakers, I guess the idea right now is get through this year because it's LeBron's last actual pinned in contract year. He's a free agent next summer, and so with LeBron, it's always up in the air for him. You don't just because it's so. When they ask him, I'm sure he's gonna say, "Oh, I'd love to play the rest of my career with the Lakers." Da, da, da. The reality is, it is totally dependent on what happens this season, what LeBron is gonna do next season. So I guess if you're LA, that's why I say they're the team that needs Kyrie the most, because a lot of teams can say, "Oh, we don't want to do this and give this up for a guy that can come with injury problems, all these other issues." Then if you're the Lakers, you absolutely need to do that because you need to maximize. You need to take the best shot possible. Yeah, it's all or nothing because you could very well lose LeBron next summer. Maybe he ends up signing on another deal and waiting until his son gets in the league, but you just don't know with LeBron James. He will do what's best for LeBron. Like that's what LeBron would do. But yeah, that's a fair point. I also think LA just kind of is just saying, man, let's just please get what we can out of this one season and figure it out after this. The Rockets, of course, if y'all were on stream with us yesterday, we saw Jay Sean say they declined that option, making him a restricted free agent, but that was because they wanted to give him a different type of deal. So they did 3-year, $22 million. That's good because the Rockets, I've got some stock with them. Victor Oladipo stayed with the Heat, thought he might end up choosing another contender, or he might end up going to a team where he could maybe showcase he could get more money somewhere, but nah, just stayed with the Miami Heat. So that'd be cool defensively for Miami. At that points he was definitely important. Wesley Matthews went back to the Bucks. PJ Tucker went to the Sixers. That one was obviously going to happen. That's interesting, by the way. As we were doing all the KD talk, Joel Embiid wants him, right? Like Philly's trying to make a move for Kevin Durant.
He said any means possible.
Yeah, very smart, man. Even though they've had their competitive moments, very smart.
Put it out the window.
And then, you don't even have to worry about at that point whether James Harden still has it in him.
Yeah,
you get KD and Harden is still there, which he obviously would be, like Harden, KD, and Embiid, and PJ Tucker at this point. If you're the Sixers, you move heaven and earth.
And if they get Kevin, that can switch things up because Harden is looking to take less money to contribute to the roster. So if you get Kevin Durant,
that could be Scary Hours Part 2.
Interesting in Philly. You trade Matisse Thybulle and Tobias Harris.
It could actually be Scary Hours this time. So keep that in mind. So I know we had kind of forgotten to speak about that. Do you like Philly more than Miami, or you still like Miami the best, knowing that?
You really got to think about Philly now because the contract situation. I still like Miami better. I do.
Right. Yeah, that would be my nightmare. For sure. That would be my nightmare. KD in Miami is my nightmare. Then of course, Devin Booker signed his extension. So just tidbit, chat, fucking A, bro, I done said chat 3 times. I'm looking at OBS. We are not streaming. It feels like I should be. DeAndre Jordan, y'all remember how much we talked about DeAndre Jordan on this pod and why was he still getting minutes? Well, he's still in the NBA and he's just signed a deal with the Denver Nuggets, which I'm guessing means DeMarcus Cousins is probably not going to come back, which is interesting. I like DeMarcus Cousins as a passer for that team behind Jokic. I thought he did a solid job for what they asked him to do at a limited time per night. I'm just telling y'all, you're not going to get that same thing out of DeAndre Jordan. At a minimum, you're not getting the passing. You're going to get the worst defensive rotations you've ever seen in your entire life. And at a minimum, you're going to get some lobs. Like, that's it. That's all you're getting from DJ is some lobs. So for the 10 minutes that he comes in per night, like Jamal Murray might toss him a lob, but don't want to totally That's just DeAndre, and I guess he just knows something. He has information on the NBA that could lead to their collapse, apparently. But the Nuggets have done some good things, man. Getting KCP to me was important, so they shipped out Monte Morris and Will Barton. Yeah, super. KCP come in and hit threes, do the dirty work for a contending team, and you're getting Jamal Murray back. In my opinion, that's exactly the player that they need to fill the two right there. MPJ is going to come back as well and fill your three. Aaron Gordon, so your starting five looks like Murray, KCP, Porter Jr. That's a big question mark with MPJ, but hey, let's just assume the best. Aaron Gordon and Jokic. That's a nice starting five. That's
solid.
Yeah, that's the best starting five Jokic will probably have had on the Nuggets playing at this level. That will be the best. So yeah, the Nuggets are gonna be must see. But DJ on the bench baffles me. I don't know. Whatever, man.
I'd rather have Cousins 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where Cousins ends up now, because I looked up, and just so I don't sound like a dumbass, let me just look it up one more time, but I'm pretty sure Cousins was only on like a limited deal for the Nuggets that expired this summer, right? They didn't sign him for 2 years. Yeah, so it's not like they have him anymore. So Cousins will get a job somewhere. He was a very solid backup to Jokic. He can come out and he's not the worst defender you've ever seen as a big man right now, and then he can add some passing. So yeah, he's a free agent. So somebody will pick up Cousins.
Hopefully, he's a spark plug.
Yeah, I would 1,000% do that. Bradley Beal, if I didn't mention, he picked up his option. He went ahead and signed the deal. He re-signed with the Wizards. He said like a week ago he wanted to win, and that was the most important decision. That was the most important factor in his decision of what he was going to do, and then he resigned. So that's basically all I have to say about that. Like, I don't fully understand that part, but he's a Washington Wizard, so no fireworks there. Lou Dort came back. They declined his $1.9 million option, and they gave him a much bigger deal, around $80 million, I believe. So yes, Lou Dort also. I liked the growth that I'm seeing in his offensive game, especially since the bubble. He's come a long way. So shout out to OKC, man. That's there now with Chet as well. Don't know how good they'll do this season, but it's definitely a must watch if you're interested in young and developing teams. And the last thing we will discuss, because if so much has happened in the last 24 hours, I almost forgot to discuss what was pretty much it. It seemed like your favorite topic, honestly. John Wall with the Clippers. Wait, did Shams never actually reported that official? Has that actually happened, or he got to clear waivers first, right?
Yeah, Rhodes said he intends to sign with the Clippers once he's bought out.
Okay. So a bought out will happen. The John Wall saga finally is done in Houston. He's already said his goodbyes on Twitter. He is set to join the Los Angeles Clippers. We already talked about how much the Clippers have going for themselves in this next year. You've got a perfect, just in terms of versatility, they might have the sweetest situation after that trade, getting Powell and Covington. But the one thing we've always looked at is their point guard situation. I feel like that's been a thing for a year or two now. And throwing John Wall on there for what is sure to be a cheap deal. It's a low risk thing. I really like it because he only has to do like two things. Last time we saw him play basketball, he was still really fast. He was so fast, I made a video about it. I think I might have overreacted, but still, he was way quicker than I thought he would be off of an Achilles injury. He just needs to be able to bend defenses sometimes and get guys some open shots. Not be a cone on defense, which is a concern after this many years off and the legs getting cold and whatnot. I think I'll give him at least like half the season to thaw out a little bit on that end. If he can do like those two things, that's what I'm most excited about. And we already know he can pass. He's not in his prime anymore, but he still see the floor, which is that's a unique thing to add to a team with PG and Kawhi on it. So those are the reasons I'm happy about the potential of it. But yeah, you even made a whole John Wall video for your first video. So you don't have to like say everything you said. You don't have to give away all your points here, David. But like, what made you so happy about the John Wall to a Clippers pairing?
Well, I mean, it's very similar to what you said. Like, he doesn't have to. Maybe he might not even have to be the third option on this team. Like, and he's gonna be able to have plenty of spacing around him. He's gonna be able to just be a third option, and he's gonna be able to get guys open because you don't lose your playmaking. Like, he's still gonna have that playmaking ability. And on the defensive end, like I think he'll be fine when you're beside Paul George and Kawhi and Robert Covington and Nick Batum. Like he'll be all right. He still has the instincts. He's still, like you said, really fast. He'll be able to shoot the gaps. He'll be able to get the passing lane steals. Like he'll be fine on the defensive end. He might still get attacked, but he should be fine. But I really think like you're adding another capable 20-point per game scorer on top of the guys that you already have. And I really think John Wall will have a bounce back year. I really do.
And if he does, and if he's able to even give them 15 or 20 on some nights, that's really big on top of everything else that they already have. And so, yeah, the great point also for the defense. Yeah, he doesn't have to really do a whole lot because you do have PG, you do have Kawhi. Like I said, it's a very versatile roster. They're not going to be asking him to do much at all. He's not going to have a big role on that end either. So that could be his most vulnerable point, and he, probably won't. They will probably have the defensive scheme if it were a thing. If attacking John Wall were a thing, Clippers would be the team to be able to hide that if that was even a problem. So yeah, that's I actually had started to talk myself into wanting him in Boston because again, the job is not hard. It's not hard. You just got to come in and be decent basically on teams like Boston, teams like the Clippers. So I really like it for them. Point guard like John Wall, or like some qualities that he could bring, is something that I think people have been asking for the Clippers for a long time, and they've already got a lot going for themselves that they could easily be a conference finals to finals team next year, even though the West is going to be very hard. They did lose Isaiah Hardenstein, but they got so much going with Kawhi coming back and the trades they made, and that's a good player, but also nothing. I don't know if it moves the needle or anything. Oh, by the way, they also re-signed Amir Coffey too, so Amir Coffey did get some burn on this podcast throughout the season. Got him on a cheap deal. So this is a deep roster, man. This is a deep roster. They were 42-40 despite not having their star players play most of or all of last season. And man, it's scary. It's scary. This is the year, if Kyrie can find himself to the Lakers, this has to be the year we get the Battle of LA at some point. Like, just make that relevant finally. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, man. I need it. Just a couple of notes before we switch topics and then get to the end of the podcast. Jaren Jackson is out 4 to 6 months. Not sure if you heard that. I think he had to repair a stress fracture in his foot. So basically, let's just go ahead and call this July 1st. He's probably going to be out until, if it's a best case scenario, right at the beginning of the season, maybe he'll miss a couple of games. And at worst, he would be out. Oh gosh. Oh wow, that's not even
January, February.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
This year is moving, so that would be big. That's huge loss because Jaren Jackson's defense, despite him not being able to defend without fouling a lot in the playoffs or against the Timberwolves, still very important to this Grizzlies team. So that losing him, and if it got to the bad end of it, that'd be a terrible thing for Memphis. But we will see what happens with that. And the last thing, pretty much on the NBA front, and if I get to the end of it and there's something I forgot, you can let me know. But very last thing, I don't know if y'all heard, pretty sad for everyone involved, but especially the woman. Miles Bridges is wildin' this summer. Miles Bridges is wildin'. This man is a contract year, and he's, a month ago posting pictures on his story of lean and whatnot, and it's just kind of like, all right, in today's NBA, I feel like in David Stern's NBA that type of stuff just wasn't flying, but today's NBA, they've really they're a lot less strict on this type of stuff. But anyways, it just didn't really seem like a great thing for a guy in the offseason who's
bro, I hate to see people, especially black men, fumble bags, man. Like this is just dumb. Just why, bro? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and so that was the beginning of it. And then last night he has reportedly got himself into felony domestic violence charges. And I read a bit into the story, and it was along the lines of the woman needed medical attention, and Miles wasn't even there when the cops got there. He had to go turn himself in, and so it is all bad. Obviously, in the situation that domestic violence is involved, you're not really, of course, on the NBA side, everyone's talking about the bag, and the domestic violence part is insane. And for Miles, like that is the reality, right? Like a super bag being stupid this whole summer. A super bag has been fumbled because he was about to sign $100 million. I would believe.
It's about to be a good deal, bro.
Yeah, so it was one thing being stupid on the story, but now you went and did this, which is just, man,
he just wants to be a rapper, man. That's all it is. He just wants to be a rapper.
Hey, I saw the tweet that said he had been trying to rap his way out of the NBA, and
yeah, man,
here we are.
He's from Detroit.
Here we are. But it's sad. It is sad because aside from all of that, again, we'll see what happens with everything with Miles Bridges going forward. But on the basketball side of it, he had a good season. He was in the running for most improved for a lot of it. Again, remind me, he did not end up winning. Who ended up winning most improved? It was Ja, wasn't it?
It was Ja.
It was Ja. But okay, outside of the guys who were already star players, Miles was one of those guys that had really throwing his name in that ring, and he'd made some big strides. So yeah, this is tough situation all around. I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see what happens going forward. But damn, Miles, what you doing? What are you doing? So before we move on to 2K, is there anything else you think we should go over in free agency, or was there something that I talked over and missed, or are we good to go?
Nah, not really much.
All right, cool. Well, as I said at the beginning of the pod, if y'all watch Twitch a lot, you're familiar with Kobe because he's been a lot in the watch parties along with Asher and others, but Kobe's probably the most consistent. And when I was streaming Park, him, Nikias, Tyrese, we all play on the, when Tyrese streams, we all still play. So Kobe's like either the point guard or the big man. And then recently we started playing Play Now Online together because would you look at 2K in the month of April or May, just then adding the ability for us to change the difficulty when you play with your friends on Play Now Online. Before that month, the game had been out since September and you could not put the game on Hall of Fame. You were stuck with it pretty much on Pro. That's what online feels like when you play against randoms. That's why I stopped playing it on Twitch, because you green every shot. It's extremely easy to beat anyone if you're even halfway competent at the game. So me and him started doing some series and we had just a lot of fun with it. But before we get to any of that, I figured we would discuss 2K22 a little bit in general, and then we'll get to some of the rewards and then the Play Now Online series we did. Because we're close to 2K23 now, by the way. 2K23 cover athlete is Devin Booker. Before we get to anything, what did you think about Devin Booker being a cover athlete?
I was just like, that was like the last person on my list that I expected, bro. Like, especially after what just happened, I'm like, why? Like, I did not expect that at all.
I did not either. My guess is that they probably have that stuff lined up well before what happened. But also, okay, what's the last cover athletes we've had? We had Doncic, who was 2K21, because I don't buy covers anymore.
Zion was next gen.
Yeah, okay, and people thought that was crazy because he hadn't even really played yet, but we knew it was coming. So then there was Zion, and then you go to 2K20, that was the Dwayne Wade. Did we even have a current player on 2K20? I can't remember.
AD.
Okay, so you see my point already. It's like Devin Booker's a really good player, but it seems like that's the cover athlete seems like it's reserved for like the top of the crop a lot of the time, at least the main cover. And so like in 2K16 you get Curry, 15 KD, 14 Braun, 13 that was D-Rose, Griffin, and KD. So they shared that cover. 12 was the Legends. I don't even think 12 had a regular cover, did it? I don't think it did. Anyways, it just seems like it's reserved for a certain type. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. I'm just like you, Devin Booker. That one like hit me in the face. I was like, oh, Devin Booker. Like, okay. Anyways, so we'll talk a little bit about 2K23. What have been, now that we're here in, let's just call it July 1st once again, we pretty much only have 2 months left with 2K. I think me and you have both agreed we probably won't be playing a whole lot of Park, given that Season 8 rewards look like a goddamn joke for as much time as you have to put in to win it. But what have been just your thoughts about 2K22 in general? Because me, you, Nikias, like we've put a lot of hours in on it, even though we hadn't streamed it a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay, man, it's just, I definitely think it's been a step in the right direction for 2K, regardless how the year went. In all aspects, step in the right direction. In some areas, now like you have areas like Play Now where they took out the ability to change the difficulty and you can't even play team up anymore. But as far as the gameplay, really didn't have any problems with the gameplay when it first came out, other than the steals. But I was enjoying
the
5-9s and the steals and the walkbacks. But other than that, the gameplay was pretty much as close to perfect as you're gonna get from 2K. They made improvements to the city, mobility around the city. The biggest problem was just rewards and a reason to play. Like they just didn't really give us a reason to play at all. Like this season, we're getting like twinkle toes to hit level 44. Like I don't understand. Like it's just the rewards have been really, really bad this year, except for like a few. Like the one time that they gave us good rewards, that's when we actually came back. So I just think a big focus for next year needs to be the rewards. But as far as the gameplay, man, the shooting needs to be harder. The contest system needs to be better, and the paint defense needs to be fixed.
Right. I'll agree with most of what you said, and I think the biggest part of it. Oh, my bad. I think it did the thing again where it was cut. Were you done talking? I think it did the thing again where it like lagged out.
I was pretty much done.
Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, because I think that's what's happening with Discord is it cuts you off and then it sends whatever you were saying like 5 seconds later is what happens. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I just spliced it at that point. Yeah, I will agree with a lot of what you're saying about 2K22. Because what normally happens is people years later say what we're saying about 2K. They say it years later. And they go like, oh, this was the greatest 2K, or this was their best work. And so we're in the moment saying this, and we've played it a lot. So I can tell you, like 2K22 from a gameplay perspective is pretty much, I would say it's like my favorite in a while. And I'm really in tune with this stuff because I might not play it as much as I used to on stream or anything, but I spent a lot of time playing 2K21, 2K20, where I did the Legends League, 2K19. I was more of like making videos on YouTube with it. And 22, even the stuff that was super out of balance, I feel like they hopped on it pretty quick. So when the year started, 5.9s were completely overpowered in the park. There were the 5.9 builds that were lightning fast. They had the walk back animation, which was just the dumbest shit ever. And you could always get an open 3 with those. They patched that. The steals were so broken that in one game you had 10 steals in the first half, I believe.
Like 11. Yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely needed to be nerfed because on one hand you could argue, oh, there's a lot of user error too, and the defense is just good, and somebody who knows how to play defense versus somebody who's being stupid playing the video game, we're always all on a lot of steals, but I don't know that many ways to justify how many steals that you were getting in the first season. It was crazy. So they patched that up. Again, like you said, the shooting probably could be harder for sure, but I just felt like that was them making the game more accessible to people because this is easily my best year shooting, like by far. And just gameplay wise in general, the only thing that I feel like is consistently out of whack is the mashing in the paint, because it's very easy once you get some type of position to mash in layups, and that's the one thing that could be a bit difficult. But just in terms of what you get from a 2K game on a year-to-year basis, this is a game that has been actually fun to play with friends, because even in your worst 2K year, if it's a bad 2K, it's a bad 2K. It won't even be fun to play with friends. And that's what's been fun here is, we can hop on rec, we can hop in park. And if you're playing with people you know and you can talk to, I have genuinely had fun with it. The parts that they slip up on and what it just baffles me is that they had all that going. They improved the city by a lot. I think they did a lot, and that city is generally a feature that people complain about. I think they did a lot in terms of like the NPCs and giving you stuff to do. They did a lot to make the city a good product, or a better product in my opinion. But oh my god, those rewards, the most ridiculous thing I've ever. We're moving into season 8. The only memorable reward so far is the go-kart, the skeleton, and the jetpack. And the skeleton's questionable, but I guess that's kind of cool. And the mascot's at level 30, so I'm talking about level 40 rewards. Level 40 rewards are the ones that I'm speaking of. So that leaves you a skeleton, jetpack, and go-kart. And to get to level 40, which ultimately gets you to legend, where you literally just get like is it a tiger and a parrot you get at legend for 2K22?
No, you got the tiger in season 4 for hitting 40.
Okay. Which was, I don't see anybody using tigers anymore, but if you're a legend, you get a parrot that hits on the goal, and that's pretty much it. While supplies last, I think you got a free copy of 2K23. I'm not even sure if that's a thing. Either way, like, you gotta make it worth it, because the problem is me and Kobe and Tanner, that's the shooter that we play with. we all pretty much set out to hit level 40 this season because the jetpack was awesome. And the mascots at level 30 was an awesome reward in my opinion. I thought that was a really cool thing. Even though it makes the 3-on-3 gameplay questionable, I thought that was still a cool aesthetic thing. Level 40 being the jetpack too, cool thing. And I'm thinking, okay, you know what? If they just give us season 8 and 9, if they give us cool rewards, I'll probably hit legend because I just needed 3 more stars to hit legend. They pulled up yesterday with a trailer of, like you said, twinkle toe shoes, which are these golden shoes that sparkle and let you run around the city faster. Am I going crazy? Do you know how long you have to play to hit level 40 in 2K? People say it's easier than it used to be or whatever, and maybe there's some truth to that. You still have to play for a good amount of time to hit level 40, and those shoes are a practical item that help you get around the park. But that's like what level would you say that would be appropriate for that? That's like level 20 something, level 25, 20, bro, right?
25, man. Maybe a reward in between 30 and 40, like the Under Armour shoes that you get this season, but not no 30 or 40, bro. Definitely not. Yeah. Especially considering that they've given us so many other forms of transportation as rewards, like the hoverboard, the go-kart, the jetpack. Like, they're giving us so much as far as transportation. We didn't need that.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. There you go. That's the thing, right? So even if you want to say, oh, they gave you something practical so you can run around. Chief, we have the tricycle, like you said, the jetpack, the hoverboard, there's a bunch of stuff to traverse the city. Twinkle Toe Shoes level 40 was so bad, 2K deleted the tweet yesterday. They were getting cooked so hard for that. Because I sent it to the group and I went back and looked at it just to laugh. It was gone. They deleted it. They haven't said a word about it. I'm still sure that's probably a level 40 reward, but that is baffling this year from 2K, because in a game that uses seasons, it feels like your one job is to make rewards enticing enough so that people play the game, and that's it. It seems like if you're gonna do 9 seasons of a game, you can sit down and plan that out ahead of time. Just like, okay, what are your 9 level 40 season rewards for the year, and do that. And I don't know how they landed on some of these rewards. Like in the Christmas reward, I remember what season that was, but level 40 was an animated sweater of like snowflakes on a sweater and the pajamas and some Adidas shoes for level 40. Insane. So I probably won't hit, I'm not going to hit legend this year, but I won't definitely not play enough in this next season 8 to hit level 40. And it's a shame because 2K22, like I said, in my opinion, while it's every 2K game has its flaws, the AI still does stupid stuff if you're going to play Platinum Online. Like, it has its flaws, but for a 2K game, it's like as close to fun as you can get. And so it's a shame that Play Now Online is still like a mess. And even playing with friends, me and you just started playing one-on-one for that reason, because they just now fixed the mode. Yeah. Before that, if you wanted to change difficulty in minutes, even quarter minutes, you had to go into you had to start at like a league and basically simulate it and play in a series or something like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so going forward into 2K23, what do you think, like based off of everything we've done this year and played this year, like what would you like to see that would actually get you excited for 23?
Well, gameplay wise, they make a pretty decent game every fix and overreact to the problems. Like if they would have kept the defense from the beginning this year, like they'd have been perfectly fine. The game would have been solid. So number one, trust the people that actually know what they're talking about in the community. Don't overreact. Don't overfix. Number two, good rewards. And I'm not necessarily, if you really wanted to show us the rewards for the whole year, show us what it's gonna be each season, you could, so we can give you feedback. But just make sure that it's something that we are gonna want to grind for, because they know what we want. Or matter of fact, here's a perfect idea. Every year, every season, you vote on the level 40. You give us 4 options. Let the community vote, and at the start of every season, you'll vote for the next season what level 40 will be for next season.
That is fire.
That's perfect idea. That's something I really want to see them try out. And then as far as the park goes, I wish they would go away from the city. I wish they would just go back to the regular affiliations, but they're not going to do that. So just spice the city up a little bit, keep the NPCs in there, and keep giving us things to get around the city well. Keep it populated.
That's actually a really good point for the rewards, because I remember Fortnite did something like that where they were bringing back a certain weapon.
Yeah.
And then they dropped everyone in there and everyone like went to the weapon that they wanted. That would actually be really,
yeah,
and maybe
I remember that. Yeah.
That seems like the natural evolution for this, because I don't know if the rewards are a thing where 2K, and a company like 2K is not understaffed. So I'm going to assume they're not understaffed, or maybe COVID affected it. Because I remember them telling me in LA last year that they didn't have 2K22 on the PC, or they haven't had the next gen version on PC yet. It had something to do with like how many people are working on the game, something related to that. Don't quote me because I can't remember exactly what they said. But for me, I would get excited mostly next year. A lot of what you said for sure. I'm not even gonna go through the spiel about Play Now Online, because I've accepted they don't care at this point. Play Now Online has been the same mode since 2K16. It's still that dumb matchmaking or lack of matchmaking thing where you get put into somebody random, so you might end up with a terrible team, they might end up with a great team. The difficulty is trash, and so you can mash your way to a win, and you can green any shot, anytime, anywhere. It's very, very easy. But yeah, it's very unrewarding to play Now Online, so I'm not even. They're not gonna
bring back Team Up. Please bring back Team Up.
Yeah, that Team Up going. What was that about, fam? Team Up has been in the game.
Why?
Team Up has been in the game for a long time, and then last year, Click and Low and all of us, like, we started playing it. B-Saws, we got a big group together and started playing it, and we were really about to start juicing this mode, and they just got rid of it. It's only in current gen now. Why would you? I don't even know. Maybe they just thought that, oh, nobody uses it, we're just gonna go ahead and remove this, and nobody's thinking about it. But it's been around. The community used to use it. I don't know. Troy Dan had videos with it, with like a lot of other YouTubers from, I don't even remember what 2K they were playing, but yeah, just a feature that's in the game that you don't gain anything from taking out. Don't know why they did that. But what'll excite me aside from all this stuff is definitely porting it to PC, because I'm at the point now where I kind of want to do some stream stuff with 2K again, like I was doing with The Sims on PC and all that. But it just dissuades me because, bro, it's current gen. Like I've played, and especially now I'm playing Play Now Online with you. It's very hard to, I won't say very hard, but it's annoying to switch between playing the current gen game and the next gen version, because I was playing the current gen version like the day before me and you started our series, and the current gen I was playing Beyond Hall of Fame Sliders. But just in general, that game is way faster. The current gen, it moves way faster, it's way shiftier. Obviously there's less animations and stuff like that. It's not as heavy as the next gen game, and so one of the reasons I haven't pulled out a Legends League in 2K22 is because I would have to mod the current gen version and act like I'm excited to play it, and I'm just not. Like, I'm really just not. At this point, I would love to have the PS5 version. Just let the modders have their way with it. Just put it on PC, let the modders replace all the missing players, because that's one thing we discovered, right, is how many of these classic teams are completely bare bones and don't have like half their roster now. You had in that series we did, you had the Cavaliers, and you were playing with Dellavedova at the 2 for a lot of the game because they didn't have J.R. Smith.
They had nobody.
And then the Nuggets were missing. You were going to use the 08 Nuggets, but then they had like one person on the bench. So modders could do a lot with this game. And then at least, and again, there's been guys in the community juicing my league for a while now. Kenny's been on my league for a minute. Click Productions has been carrying my league, or helping carry my league, for years now. If you give next gen that version, I'll even get back into it and get creating content with that. So that's what to do it. But I did ask them last year, and they had an actual reason why they didn't. So I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Well, I have a question for you. What would you like to see? Because I've been seeing this around. As far as the build system, would you rather them keep the superstar type build system, or go back to like the archetypes, or like the two you good at like two main things?
So what was the difference between these again? Because really, I just started builds like this was the year. This year was honestly the time I spent the most time on my build.
Yeah.
Like even in 2K21, I just had a big that played defense, and I've never been that big on my career. So the system we have now, I know like the attributes are capped at a certain point. That's what you're talking about, right? Like every attribute is
well, yeah, but now it's like you can really just make a pretty much a superstar that can do everything. But it used to be you had to pick an archetype, so you had to be like a playmaking shot creator, or a sharpshooting defender, or defending playmaker. Like, you know what I'm saying? So my question to you is, would you rather them keep going with the superstar build system, or would you rather go back to like a role player type? Everybody has a role. To create more balance.
I'm trying to think, because really what I'm thinking about right now is when we play rec, and I'm assuming this build this build system we have now, that's the reason everybody on the floor can shoot at all times, and nobody has a build that's like actually playing like big man position. But I guess with that though, they're also trying, and maybe I'm wrong, but I get the sense that they're trying to have a system that mimics the actual NBA, because if you like, okay, it's like take 2K League for instance. Even the 2K League doesn't mimic the actual NBA in a sense, because all the big men in the 2K League, those builds can't shoot. They're like defensive builds, they're rebounding, and they can rebound. They're like actual traditional big men. But the game today is not necessarily played with traditional bigs. It's bigs that can rebound and sometimes defend, but can also, like Jokic, can also shoot at least out to the mid, but definitely threes as well. If you go back to that system, are you going to end up with it looking like the 2K League, where if you choose to be a big man, you're not shooting the ball? Or is there going to be too much? Like basically, they're going to balance it too much to where it looks like 2000s basketball is what I'm asking.
I just think it depends on the gameplay. Like if you have really good defense in the game, it would help balance out the superstar builds. And I don't know. I mean, it depends on how hard the shooting is too, because like you can make a fairly, like my 6'10" it doesn't really have that high of an attribute, but I'd be going like 5 for 6, 6 for 7 from 3.
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
So it just depends on what the gameplay is looking like for me.
Yeah, I guess I would like the middle ground, because I don't want it to be like 2K League, where they have the builds basically. Again, I had in 2K21, I had a big that was great at rebounding and great at rim running. Not rim running, that's not the what do you call it? Great at rolling and such. And I could get 20 and 10 off of that, but I couldn't shoot a lick. Neither one of those builds could shoot at all. My 2K21 last gen build was really a really good big man, but it couldn't shoot. However, I found out, I came into this year, nobody makes a build that can't shoot. Every single build on the floor, it can shoot. And you hear me ask that sometimes when we're playing rec, and the guy has like a tall build and he's boxing out, he's doing great at rebounding, he's doing great at controlling the paint, but then he's also lighting up from 3. And sometimes I leave him open for the first couple of shots, because I'm like, there's no way in hell
he can do everything.
This build can shoot too, right? Like this build is this damn big and he can also shoot. Now I'm like, what can't he do? So I guess maybe a middle ground, because I have seen some builds in 2K22 where I'm going, man, there's just no way you're controlling the paint like this completely on both sides of the floor, and you're a sharpshooter, bro. Like, come on now.
For sure.
And maybe that has to do once again with how easy shooting is in this game, because it's very easy. I should not be as good of a shooter as I am. I've had like 1 or 2 off nights this whole year, throughout this entire season, and one of them came recently. So yeah, that's a lot of the 2K stuff we'll talk about. The series we played was fun. I got gentleman swept. It was a 5-game series, but it is the most fun I've had playing 2K with somebody else, like playing out online. It's pretty much since me and my friend used to do it back when we were in high school, because 3 of those games, so it went 5 games. If I'm not mistaken, 3 of those games were really close. They came down to either like the last couple of minutes or the last couple of shots. And that I think it will definitely play more series in the future too, because I like actually playing with the possibility of losing and the challenge. But definitely keep going, because it shows the potential of play now online. Like if you just had like if you just made it to where you get to and I guess in this year somebody told me that it does get harder, but I haven't seen it. What are you in? What league are you in play now online? You're like, what are you, greatest or Hall of Fame? Or
I'm on Xbox, I'm like whatever's below the greatest, whatever's right below the greatest.
So have you felt the shooting?
I'm on PS5.
Have you felt the shooting get harder from league to league, or is it still
not
like
at all?
Yeah, okay, I didn't think so. And so somebody told me the difficulty goes up like it always did, but I'm going, bro, this is the first year I've gotten as far as I did, and this is still the easiest game I've ever played. And the mashing, I found out it feels like it's on pro difficulty, so I'm going, oh, well, I can make any layup I want. So that's kind of like how you end up winning every game. And maybe that's the goal, because they already know nobody wants to play piano anyway, so why make it harder and really dissuade people? Maybe that's the logic behind it. But nah, the series we played, be it a gentleman sweep, that shit was fun. What was your favorite team you played with? We'll pretty much start wrapping up here, but we did. You played with the Heat. I had the Rockets. Played with the 16 Cavs. I played 19 Raptors. You had the 14 Spurs, which are just extra nasty.
Yeah, everybody knows my answer is, man.
Oh, that's what it is.
14. No, but the 14 Spurs, man.
Yeah,
10 times out of 10.
Yeah, no, the 14 Spurs were insane. And then the hardest one is just, I got to learn how to play with 90 teams, because when we did the 97 Magic, I mean, it's 95 Magic and 97 Heat, that was a war of it. Those games were wars of attrition. I think we only played
gutted.
Once. No, it was... Y'all gotta go watch the VOD if you're listening to this. When we got to the fourth quarter of that game, I don't know if it was a stupid turnover or what, but I went down 4 and it was like 3 minutes left in the game, and I told Chad, I was like, I'm cooked, bro. Like, I'm cooked. I'm not scoring 4 more points with this team. There's not a chance in hell in how tired they were, because you only have about 2 extra shooters on those teams. I think you had Dan Marley and Mashburn, I'm gonna assume you probably had.
Yeah.
And I had Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott, and I was like, bruh, everyone is gassed. 4 points is being down 10 right now. So definitely that was definitely a fun thing. But last question with the, and maybe I don't know, we're almost at 2 hours now, so let me wrap it up quick. When did you start playing the trap like that? Like because the funny part about the press in 2K is, if you don't know how to do it, it won't do anything. Like, the computer's not going to do it for you. Like, if you don't actually know what you're doing with the trap, it seems useless. How long ago did you start trapping to where, you know, basically what you did in the series?
Well, that's, like I said, that's my first video on YouTube. It's not out no more, but it's still on private. It was the most overpowered defense in 2K history, and I still believe that to this day if you run it right. But I learned to do it in my team last year, and I think that's what makes it so effective now, because in my team you're having to guard guys that all can shoot, all can dribble, all can slash, you know what I'm saying? So you're guarding guys that can do everything, so it's going to be harder for you to really give guys certain things. But really, I just kind of I was like, you know, nobody uses the half court trap. Let me see what it's working with. And I used it, and I lost some games, but I figured it out. I figured out the rotations and how the computer reacts. So yeah, I mean, I just been using it since last year, and now I'm growing into the full court trap. I'm using the full court trap a little bit, and now my press is stronger. Like, in my press, I'll use manual trap sometimes. But it's really, a lot of it's instincts. Like, you gotta know what you're doing. You can't just go out there and trap and give up a wide open 3.
No, for sure. Like, what and I got better at it as the games went on, but going against your trap, that was the first time I had actually seen a full functioning trap. Normally someone presses and I'm like, okay, cool, I can just throw it up ahead and get a fast break now. That's normally what happens. Guys break down as soon as they call that. But your trap, other thing that made it difficult is we play together in rec all the time, and we bait a lot of passes. We bait a lot of rotations and all that. And so I was like, we do this shit all the time. And I know exactly what he's going to do, but let me see if I can get this pass through. And I probably threw 100 turnovers. But no, those of y'all, if you still play 2K at all, if you play my team, if you can figure out a trap, you probably beat like 90% of the people you play. You don't have to do it all game, but in the series we were doing, a lot of the games you beat me, we were having close games. You cut on the trap at the just for like half of the third quarter or something like that to get the game out of reach. Because if you know how to bait and you're a really smart defender, it's a beautiful defense to use. But yeah, can't wait for later in the summer. If y'all do follow on Twitch or you don't follow on Twitch, follow both of us on Twitch for sure, because he's right now the only person I really care to play in 2K online. Otherwise, it's just not as fun. Yeah, it's just a watch. You know, I don't even consider myself that great, but you get on play now online. Nobody good is really playing it, so definitely a lot of fun with that. I was gonna ask you about some of your in real life basketball experiences since you're potentially going to college off of it, but honestly, we're almost at 2 hours now. The new episode of The Boys is dropping, so I'm sure we'll have you on again. Absolutely, I'm sure people would love to hear about that. It's a lot of you're probably around the same age as a lot of the viewers that I have out here, then maybe Hoop too, so definitely we'll have you back on at some point. But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, and once again, just plug all your stuff clearly, your Twitch, your YouTube, and your Twitter, so people know where to find you. And you know, if anything else, they'll definitely see you on Twitch, because 2K is not the only thing we're playing, by the way. We'll be on VR headset soon, and a lot of co-op games as well.
Well, first things first, man, I want to thank my guy Don for bringing me on. I used to literally, during quarantine, like replay episodes of this podcast and listen to it while I hoop. So it's really surreal to actually be up here on this podcast. And but yeah, my stuff, I mean, Kobe K on YouTube and Kobe_K_ on Twitter and Twitch. You know, go follow me there. Like you said, we're gonna be doing some VR stuff soon, so that should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as I normally do when people are on the pod, I will like have the links to his YouTube mainly in the comment section and description. So if you're interested, definitely go ahead and check it out. This podcast was definitely on the longer side. Normally we have like 40 minutes to an hour these days, but hey, free agency pod, right? Well, I'll be back in like another week with another guest. Once again, remember to rate the podcast if you enjoyed it on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And if you have a guest that you want to see on that's a fan of a certain team, recommend it. I had somebody make some recommendations. I had a couple people make recommendations after the last episode. So if you have someone you want to hear on the DomCast, I have my own list, but definitely let me know. I appreciate y'all listening, and I will be back next week.
Hey, Mom, stand up.